Shemai everyone, and welcome to this shading tutorial. So today we're going to be learning all about shading, but we're also going to be having a little brief history about the pencil, as that's what we're going to be using to create our sphere. So what is shading then? Well, shading is the use of light and dark values to give the illusion of form and depth. And you might be thinking, what is value? Well, value is the lightness or darkness of a colour. And shading also usually indicates a slight change in colour. So you can see there's a tiny small chart on the bottom of this slide, which goes from pure white to pure black. And in between we have a lot of different tonal shades. And we can create this in our work by using various different techniques. For example, we have hatching, cross-hatching, tonal, stipple, which we tried in our dot work lesson, scumble, which is when you use a dry brush, and smudge, which is what we're going to be doing today. Examples of shading here. I've included a couple of examples because similar to the dot work lesson, we're going to be using a light source in our work, which makes the three-dimensional shape come to life because we have to draw shades around this light source. So I've included some creative vocabulary there, which we're going to be going over, which describes the different parts of the shading. And I've also included a shell, which has been shaded really nicely, and that also connects to natural forms. Graddfilio then, shading. Let's go through the shading vocabulary. So we have centre light, which you'll see is the nearest to the light source, and it's also known as the plane. And then we have highlight, the reflection of the light source. Half tones, so these sit between the highlight and the shadow, and they're always lighter than anything in the shadow. Core shadow, which is the darkest part of the shadow. Reflected light, so this is when light bounces off an object, and it's never as strong as the primary light. Occlusion shadow, when objects block light. And then we have the cast shadow, which is the shadow which is cast by the object/figure. So whatever you're trying to draw, you'll have to have a shadow behind it to make it look lifelike. But because we're doing this with graphite pencils, I wanted to give you a short history of the pencil. So the first appearance of the pencil was in 1565, and it was illustrated in a book by Swiss polymath Conrad Gessner. The book De Omni Rerum Fossilium showed the first dated illustrated pencil. So let's have a look at pencil grades. If you have a pencil near you, maybe pick it up and see if it has a grade on it. And when I say grade, I mean that it might have a small little letter on the end of the pencil, which could be H, F, maybe it's HB, or maybe you even have numbers, 2B, 3B, 4B. For example. So you can see the chart on this part of the video, which shows the light to dark tones. And basically, it means that less clay in the graphite mix of the pencil makes the pencil core softer, meaning it will deposit more graphite and leave a darker mark. So it also means the softer pencils need to be sharpened more often. So if you do have any graded pencils around you, then I would suggest using them for this tutorial today. So in my video, I did use a 4B pencil, a 2B pencil, and a H pencil. But if you don't have any graded pencils on you, that's fine. Just use one pencil for today. It just means you might have to work a little bit harder to get the darker tones in your work. And I also wanted to mention this to you guys, Menu Pencil, also known as Pencil Woman. So we can't talk about pencils without mentioning the pencil lady or pencil woman, aka Caroline Weaver. So in 2014, she founded a shop called the CW Pencil Enterprise in New York. And this shop basically includes every pencil from the ages, including the original Blackwing 602. So the Blackwing 602 pencil was launched in 1934 by Eberhard Faber, and it was raved about by artists and writers including John Steinbeck. And basically the pencil was known for being half the pressure but twice the speed, and this was because it had a unique mix of wax, graphite and clay in its leads, and it also had a rubber on the end, but it was different to the majority of pencils with rubbers on the end because these were thought to be a gimmick in the 20th century. This one was a mechanism, and you could basically extend and then replace the eraser that it contains. People were prepared to pay for the quality of this pencil, but unfortunately, because they were a small fish in a big pond, they had to close. Therefore, people started stockpiling all these pencils because they loved them so much. And now, an original Blackwing 602 pencil, unsharpened on eBay, will reach about £60. Let's get into the lesson then. So for today, you're going to need a pencil and a small piece of paper. However, if you'd like to enhance your lesson experience, you might want to have an eraser, a ruler, a clean tissue or a blender pencil. So a blender pencil can basically move around the graphite strokes in your work. I'm not expecting you to have one, but if you do, you could use it, and I'm just letting you know of different equipment that you might want to use in the future. Firstly, I would suggest using maybe a mug or a lid to draw around. This way you're creating a perfect circle. I'm not asking you to go for a large circle unless you want to, because that might be quite time consuming, so just keep it small. So if you have a regular pencil, you start using that now around the outside, just as I'm doing in the video. However, I'm using a 4B. So like I showed you earlier about the pencil grades, this is slightly darker. So first of all, I'm just using light pressure to go on the inner circle at the edge. And I'm being careful not to go anywhere near my light source, which is on the top left. So start with the darkest parts. So what I'm doing now is building up my core shadow, my half tones, before I do my highlight and my center light. So make sure that you start this way because it's always easier to add and layer on top, but it's more difficult to take away. And I want to leave a really good amount of white space for my center light, so I might use a rubber to do this later on. So at this point I pick up my blender pencil, but if you don't have one of those, that's okay, because you can use a clean tissue, which often kind of replicates similar results. So what that is doing is smudging the graphite around. I'm also using my rubber at parts if I want a lighter shade. So once you're happy with your shading, you're going to want to start creating your cast shadow. So I think I was using my 4B pencil again, and I just drew a shape at the bottom. And you can see I've drawn a line here as well, and that's because that's basically what the sphere is sitting on. So it creates that illusion even more. And I'm going around there and I'm building up my tones exactly as I did with the sphere. So I'm just adding darker bits nearer the edge of the sphere, and the lighter tones are sitting on the outside. I use tissue on top again to smudge it, and I finally feel really happy with what I've created. I wish you luck in this task. In addition to this task, maybe you could challenge yourself to draw a small object connected to your theme of natural forms using the skills you've learned in this shading class. So I wish you the best of luck. Enjoy, guys, and hopefully you'll send your photos to me or upload them onto Teams. Hoil for now. Bye.